Dumbo says hi too. He's currently having a nap apparently. So welcome back to my channel, even though it's only my second video. Exciting stuff. I've actually got stuff written down in a book of what I want to talk about. I'm going to focus on behind the scenes / tips and tricks. So I've got 10 things written down because I don't want to skip anything, because I think they're all just as important as each other. So let's just get started. Number 1, finding your location or studio. If you go to a college or uni, there'll be a studio there. If you're freelancing or you're just self-teaching, there's many studios you can rent out for, like, I can't remember the prices, but there's a lot like London and stuff like that. There's even some in my local area, which I was a little bit surprised to find out. When you're looking in the studio, you need to consider your background and your lighting that you're going to use, as you have a bit more control over that. If you're going on location, please consider the weather. The weather's really important. You can take lights out on location shoots, but in my opinion, the location shoot is mostly about using the natural light. So do as you wish. Then moving on to my second point is the setup. If you're on location, I can't mention this enough. Consider the weather, because for instance in the UK, in England, our weather's so unpredictable. When I was doing this photo shoot with my friend, it was very windy, cloudy, which is what I wanted it to be cloudy, but it started raining just as we was finishing. My friend was taking pictures of me because she's also a photography student, and I wanted to enjoy something, so she was taking pictures and it just suddenly started raining, so we ran everything indoors. Thankfully we was only in my garden, so we could just run indoors. But if you're, let's say, on a field, please take something to protect your camera gear that is waterproof in case it changes, or just make sure you've got something ready, because it's very unpredictable. Making your photo shoots run smoothly. This is how I prepare for my photo shoots. So I've always done research before my photo shoots. Even if I'm going into my own ideas, I like to grab inspiration and switch it. I'll show an example at some point, but I like to do so I like to come up with my ideas, all my ideas on a mind map, and I'll narrow it down. So we've got mind map, narrowing it down, then we do research and a mood board. I tend to do those together. And then I search for the model location. And then if there's anything that could possibly cause harm, if not done safely, I will plan out safety precautions. And obviously plan days and times. And when the model gets there, or if I'm shooting still life, we will look at the plan. We'll be like, what's on the agenda, and we'll figure out to do it all nice and smoothly. This links to my next point of how I make my shoots run smoothly, is also making the model comfortable. Most of my models have been my friends, and if they're not, we are friends now. I tend to chit chat with them before the shoot, give them as much detail as possible, and I have been in front of the camera taking self-portraits, which I'll come back to see how the model feels, so I can be like, look, I understand, this is what I did, and it tends to help. Whether we're on location or in studio, if it's a longer shoot or if it's a really hot day, I like to bring snacks and drinks for anyone and everyone that's involved, even if it's just me doing still life. And I also like to bring a speaker if I'm on location, just to play some music within reason, obviously. That helps the model get more comfortable in front of the camera. It does sometimes just take time for them to open up to the camera, because it is a very vulnerable thing to do. You're putting yourself in front of a camera, and you've got to understand that as a photographer. And my next point is to check your photos throughout the photo shoot. In my college, in the studio, we had a Mac to check our photos, which I never ever used, which was so annoying. I should have done it, really. But you could take the SD card out and check the photos on the Mac. so you can see if you like them, if you need to tweak them. I used to check on the camera, which is great and all, especially if you're on location, because you can zoom right and see if the focus is like sharp. However, there was a couple of times I was in the studio, and when I went back to the classroom and went like editing, I would have been like, oh, I wish I'd done this, and I would have to do a whole nother shoot to refine it. I don't mind doing that though. Another point, small things I do for my models, that is like what I said before, getting drinks, snacks, music, just small chit chat. Sometimes I've even had them bring a friend just so they're a bit more comfortable, or like I'll bring an extra person to help out, and it tends to make it feel more at ease because it's not one-to-one as such. My next point is how I take my self-portraits, because there's quite a few things with this one. During my final major project, I took tons of self-portraits. It was like 50-50. Half my project was self-portraits, half with other people. Before I started college, my self-teaching, I used to just plonk my camera on a tripod, put something in front of the camera, photograph it, and adjust focus on auto, and then switch it to manual, move the object and just stand where that object was. Whereas at college, I did all my self-portraits in the dark, obviously with the light set up. But what I did was I would get my tutor, he would come in, I would get 2 dolls, 1 for each foot, and I would stand where I need to be, put the dolls down. The dolls are important because that's where I could stand and the camera would be in focus when it's on manual. If you stand elsewhere, you're not going to be in focus. So my tutor would photograph me in autofocus, make sure everything's correct. I'll check it, see if I like it. And it's really important you switch it to manual before you take any photos. And you set the timer on to 3 seconds because it's Nikon, we don't have the Canon Connect app. And then I would go and switch off the lights, turn on my timer, and go and take my pictures. It was really quite simple like that. And my concepts were thankfully very simple, so I could just run in there, take the photo, run back out. Or if I was doing multi-exposures, I'd be like, posing. They were definitely challenging, but like it's definitely gained more confidence in my work in general. I've know other creators will say the same, like take self-portraits, it will boost your confidence and you'll learn more about photography. It's so true. How I set up my still life. Okay, so I like to use props in my still lives. I've got many photos of still lives with props. I don't do that for all of them. There's some where I did fragrances and I've either left it as it is or I've just written like the brand name on the top. But the framing and the rule of thirds is really important to me because you don't want too much negative space. However, if you're photographing something like fragrances, you just want that in the centre. When I was shooting my jewellery still life, I wanted all the thirds to be involved. I'd have some in the left, some in the middle, some on the right. But you don't want too much negative space, but you don't want to make it too busy either. It's a big experiment with the composition and how you want it to be. I don't like it being too empty, but I don't like it to be too busy. So it definitely took a lot of rearranging and just reorganising. But once you know your style and how much you want in your frame, you can just go with the flow then. I do like to use props though. I know I said that before, but when I say I like to use props, I like to make my props. I brought 2 paint palettes and I painted them to match the background for my jewellery shoot. I made my own little hangers, paper clips for my own idea, and I painted a mini canvas and an easel for another idea. I like to make my work my own and creative. I like to make my own props because it feels like it's my work and there's more effort put into it. This is a cheeky one. I used my phone as a light. So I was photographing, I remember this shoot so vividly because it was so challenging. I was photographing a Gucci bottle. I will try and put it up here, but if not, I will find it and I will put it there, so it'll be there. But anyways, I was photographing a Gucci bottle and there's some writing at the bottom, and all the lights I was using was just a little bit too much on the bottle. It was making the black like grey, and I didn't want that. I wanted it all to be dark. I wanted it to be black. other than the writing. So I thought, let me try and use my phone. So I whipped my phone and I got the torch out and I kind of used my hand to narrow it down so it's just the bottom of the bottle that was lit up. I stood further back but in arm's reach photograph, and it lit it up absolutely perfectly. So if you're ever struggling just for that little bit of light, don't hesitate to use something like your phone. Just because you've got expensive lights doesn't mean you can't just whip out your phone to light up something really, really small. It does help. And my last point being tidy, 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 which you might be wondering when you do that afterwards. Yes, and especially if you're on location, do not leave anything behind, especially if it's messy. But when I say tidy, 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 I'm going to refer back to my Gucci bottle. Well, it's not my Gucci bottle, but you know, the fragrance. When I was using the still life table and I was photographing it, it would get so dusty. You got to wipe it down, make sure there's no dust, because otherwise you end up like me. You had to use Photoshop to edit out all that little bit of dust. And even on the bottle, you got to clean the bottle throughout the photo shoot as well. Or if you're photographing people, make sure their hair is like down to the sides. If it's down, make sure there's nothing going on here, nothing blocking the neck. Or make sure the collar's tucked, or just make sure the outfit is exactly how you want it to be, because you do not want to be in Photoshop trying to edit all that. You want to make it as easy and as efficient as possible. But that is all my points for today. If you want 10 top tips and tricks that I've got for fashion photography or fashion general, let me know. I shall deliver. I hope you enjoyed. Like and subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll be trying to post more regularly. So let's go. Have a nice day, people. Bye.